Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with a brand new speed build, this time doing something which I've wanted to do for a really long time, and I've finally got round to doing it, and I'm so excited about this build because I had so much fun making it. So this is Pumpkin Farm. It's a 4-bed 3-bathroom build on a 64 by 64 lot in Brindleton Bay, and it comes in at just less than 333,000 simoleons. Now, for anyone who's wondering, the screenshot for this particular farm was taken over in Windenburg, and trying to get a screenshot for this at the end was just an absolute nightmare, but that's another story. So I have wanted to make a farm for the longest time, and it's also something that's been highly requested on the channel as well, but every single time I've come to do it, I've just not been quite sure about how I've wanted to do it. But obviously, with us approaching Halloween, it came to me that a really good idea would be to do a pumpkin farm. Now, last weekend I had some downtime, and I think it was Saturday night I spent playing The Sims, but not building, actually playing, and I created a little family and we started off in a starter home, and it's the first proper time I've had a chance to really sit down and actually play The Sims, and it's been a really long time since I have. And I always think it's a good idea to actually play The Sims because it gives you a better understanding of how they function, the things that you want them to do, like activities, skill building items and things like that, and it just gives you a better understanding in the best way to build for them. Now, there's actually been quite a few changes to the game since I played last time, with the release of seasons, and there's been a few other expansions as well that have been released. So I felt like I was literally playing for the first time since seasons was released, and I was quite surprised at all the changes with the gardening aspect of The Sims, and the fact that you can now sort of manually evolve plants. We've now got sprinklers and things like that, and gardening is just so much easier than it was. So I kind of felt like in the past I've always really enjoyed gardening in The Sims, but it does get a little bit overwhelming. It's a bit of a chore if you get a bit of a big garden going on. So now we've got sprinklers and things like that, it's so much easier. So as I was kind of doing this let's play and playing with my current family, I was thinking to myself, I would actually really like to make a huge garden and be able to move my sim into a house where I could have plants that were fit for spring, ones for summer and ones for fall, so it was a little bit more organised, but I just didn't have space on my little starter home lot. So I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a farm. So yeah, that's where it all came from. It was from me playing last weekend and thinking, I really need to build myself a really big garden, and you can't get much bigger than A, a 64 by 64 lot, and B, a farm. So the only downside to it is we don't actually have the farming aspect in The Sims as yet, like we did in The Sims 3, and we had the horses and things like that, so we could build for those. So it kind of took a little bit of imagination. Now, I wanted this farm to be a fully functioning farm and a really useful one as well. So I wanted there to be places all over this farm that your Sims could enjoy, because I felt that if I just built loads of fields, that it was a bit of a waste of space because there's nothing for the Sims to do in there. But I did add a little bit in the corner of the farm. I built kind of like a pigsty area, which I'll be moving on to shortly. And I did want to kind of add in that realistic element that, that was for an animal, but obviously we couldn't put anything in it. So I've literally just put activities and skill building items in there. So in every corner of this farm, there is something for your Sims to do, whether it's gardening in one of the 4 greenhouses, whether it's the kids playing in the kids' play area, doing chess or painting or fishing, pumpkin carving, you name it. Now, when I say fishing, I actually went into the debug items and I found the little pond and the little fishing sign as well. So there's literally everything for your Sims to do in this farm. But at the same time, obviously, obviously I did want to add in some kind of decoration to make it look like we did have fields. So I had a couple of little fields that were dotted around that were just full of pumpkins. But outside of the kind of fields were the pumpkin carving stations, as well as I also put the woodworking benches as well. So there is so much to do. I actually spent, this has actually got to be one of the longest builds I've ever done. And it was nearly 10 hours long by the time I'd finished with it. And I'm pretty sure I could probably have kept going as well. I did spend a lot of time on this, and it was quite hard coming to edit to fill in absolutely everything that I did, because there was just so many smaller details that afterwards I kind of dotted around the farm, just adding more and more and layering up the details. Now, the way I actually built this farm is, obviously I did section it off, and I started at the front right hand corner, and I found that when I sectioned each of these little fields off, I was able to concentrate on the particular areas one by one to make them as detailed as I could. So this particular area that I'm working on now was the 2 greenhouses, which are then replicated towards the back of the farm later on. And inside I added lots of planters, and I did go back in and add sprinklers between each one of them as well. So your Sims don't ever have to worry about watering the plants, which I just think that is such an awesome element to kind of like the gardening aspect of the Sims. And I can't believe that Seasons has been out for as long as it has, and I've only just discovered that. It's ridiculous. I swear, I've played this game for hours. I've got over 4,000 hours playtime in this game, and there are still things when I log on that I discover and find. It's just absolutely crazy how big this game is now. I must admit, though, there was a part of me that felt a little bit sad building this, that we couldn't actually build a real functioning farm where we could keep, maybe chickens or, pigs, or I don't know, whatever it may be, just like a real farming element. I think that would be a real amazing sort of addition to The Sims. But I mean, who knows what they're going to come out with next, because, I'm really happy with everything that we've got. And I think anything else after Seasons and Pets is just a bonus at this point. But I must admit, building this farm, I was thinking to myself, it would be really nice in the future if we did have more of a farming element. I think I'd be quite happy with that. But the gurus are actually teasing us at the moment, because I believe there's going to be some sort of release at some point. I don't know the finer details, but I know some of the gurus have been teasing us a little bit. So we're going to have some new content coming up fairly soon, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to that. I've no idea what it's going to be. There's lots of speculation. To be honest, I don't really get involved in the speculation because I'm far too impatient. So if I actually dwelled on it, I'd start getting annoyed that I didn't know. So yeah, but I'm quite looking forward to that, because as I say, any more content now is just literally a bonus for me. So this was actually the little kind of pigsty pen area that I made, and obviously, it's not really functioning. I don't know what you would actually do with this particular corner, but I just wanted to add in that sort of animal kind of section to the farm, and this would have been like a little area where they, would have been grazing the field, for instance. But later on, I do go in and put kind of like a big sort of I think it's like a bonfire with a load of seats around it, because I was thinking, well, I don't want it to be like an obsolete part of the farm. I still wanted it to be functioning. So like I said earlier, I added in lots of skill building items and activities absolutely everywhere. And I always say this, you know how much I love landscaping, and so I always make a point of putting a lot of activities and skill building items in different points around the house, because that way, your Sims can really enjoy the environment that they've got. So the other bonus to building a farm was the fact that there was just so much landscaping involved, and I just had a lot of fun building this because it was just something very different from what I'm used to building. Ordinarily I'm building big suburban houses, so to actually build something that was a bit more structured was really enjoyable. I just need to get my Sims to win the lottery now so they can actually move in. So I'm currently just replicating the greenhouses from the front of the farm over to the back. And the reason why I built 4 was obviously one for each one of the seasons. When I was playing the game, obviously I realised with us having seasons now that certain plants do go out of season. And so I just thought it'd be nice to sort of have one for each one of the seasons. So what I also did at the back of the house at the very beginning of the video, I built the actual house and I built its own private garden as well. I kind of imagined, and I think this is quite realistic really, that on farms, if you do have a house, it tends to have its own kind of complete garden, and then you have the farm around the outside, and I wanted that to be the same. So it's got quite a little pretty garden at the back of the house as well. So the other thing which I've just finished off there was I think they're pronounced silos for the farm. And immediately when I thought of a farm, I thought of one of my favourite games that I used to play a while back called Stardew Valley. And, you know, if anyone's played Stardew Valley, you'll know that it's kind of like a farming game. And straight away I thought of silos and that I wanted to add them in. But ordinarily they have sort of ladders up the side of them. I was having a look at a few pictures online of, you know, what colours they were and what they sort of had on the outside. And I was thinking, well, we don't have ladders. How am I going to make those? So I decided to make them out of drain pipes and shelves. To try and give the effect that there was ladders going up the side of them. So yeah, that was a little bit different. But at the minute I'm just moving on to the pumpkin patches, and there's 3 of these on the farm. We've got pumpkins all over the shop in this farm, but I wanted it to be like quite nice and organised. I kind of imagined that this was a family who, you know, they ran a pumpkin farm, and they also you know, carved the pumpkins and maybe sold them, and it was like a family business. So I wanted it to be just like an amazing farm, you know, somewhere that all your Sims would love to go to pick a pumpkin out. And so I included lots and lots of different pumpkins in different colours as well. Some of them have already got carved faces and things like that, but I actually really enjoyed doing the entire kind of farm with the theme as well. My kids absolutely love each year picking a pumpkin and, you know, sitting down together and carving stupid faces into them. So I kind of had all that in my mind when I was building it. And yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this build. So I just want to say a massive thank you for all your feedback from the tutorial video that I did. Wow, that was such a nightmare to film. It was just, at one point I was thinking, I don't think I can do this because it was just really difficult to kind of make sure that I had everything in it that I wanted to have in it. And I've still found things that I've missed out, so I'm going to include that in part 2. But I'm really looking forward to part 2, which I'm looking to film this weekend. I don't want to leave a massive gap between both of the tutorials because I know that a lot of people are quite interested in the landscaping aspect. So I'm going to be working on that this weekend, and hopefully I should have that up within the next week or so. So I have got quite a few collaborations still to come as well. I'm taking part in a huge group collaboration which is coming soon, and that's a huge bunch of simmers that are grouping together, organised by Chrissy York, and we've all been given a lot each to kind of make a build in Newcrest. So we're rebuilding the entirety of Newcrest, so that's going to be an exciting project. And I've also got a couple of other collaborations that are coming up as well, but this is such a busy time of the year, and I really love this time of the year in The Sims as well. There's just so much going on, and I think people get quite excited about doing the sort of Halloween and spooky sort of builds as well, so I'm quite looking forward to getting stuck into building some of those. So I'm just finishing off some sections of the house at the moment. This particular area was kind of like a barbecue area. We had the pond at the front, as well as a little fishing sign. There really is a lot to do in each section of this kind of farm, and yeah, I really like the way that the outside turned out. Now, with regards to the inside of the house, with it being a farmhouse, I wanted to keep it quite traditional. So I went for a lot of sort of dark woods and greens, and I tried to use colours that complemented the outside of the house as well. So the actual house is 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and it's not actually that big. Downstairs in the house, we've got a reception room as well as a downstairs toilet, the kitchen area and the dining room, and as well as kind of like a sort of medium-sized hallway. So the actual floor plan of this house isn't really that big, but I did upstairs manage to fit in 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. So it's still a good sized house for a good sized family. Now, with regards to the bedrooms, I decided to do a master bedroom as well as a boys' room, and then there were 2 sort of twin rooms. One of them was very kind of generic in colour, so it could have been for a boy or a girl, and the second one was a little bit more kind of girlyish, and it had a toddler bed in as well. So I tried to include sort of with the bedrooms kind of like a bedroom for each age. So I think overall the price for this house being 333,000 simoleons isn't actually that much of a bad price, and I think it's because obviously a lot of it is landscape, and it's, you know, a lot of the things that I've placed are fairly free, but the expense of the house actually wasn't that much. Now, I didn't go for sort of a restricted budget. Obviously I didn't use restricted packs with the build either, so it may take a little bit of saving up for this one, but I don't think it's too unachievable. I mean, I played on Saturday night and I managed to accrue, I think it was like 45,000 simoleons, and I'm not even an expert player, so I don't think it'll take that long to save up, and I'm actually going to use that family and try and get them to save up for this particular farm as well. So I'll have to tell you how long it actually took me. So as you can see, I'm just moving on to the inside now, and I'm working on the kitchen. This actual kitchen style was one that I used quite recently in another build, and I used again this colour swatch for the kitchen counters because I felt like it was very sort of farmhouse like, but I used a little debug items with the little mounted fish as well on the walls. Now, I might be wrong, but I think it's the first time I've managed to use those kind of floor to ceiling sort of bay windows, and yeah, I also use them in a swatch, which I never thought I'd use either. So I used a lot of items in this build that I've never used before as well, and it's always quite satisfying when you can find a way to use something that you've never used before within a build. And I think that's kind of the bonus of building different styles of houses as well, is it kind of forces you to use items that you wouldn't ordinarily use. So that it was quite refreshing really to build in a particular style. Now, this dining room drove me nuts. I think I'd been building the other night for a really long time, and I got to this room, and dining rooms for me are really straightforward because we've got a lot of choice with dining sets and things like that. It's really not too hard to build a dining room, but for some reason it just was not happening. So I went around and around, and I must have changed those rugs about 100 times before I was happy, and I still don't think I'm happy with it. I actually think I prefer the swatches of wallpapers that are on the wall now, but I did go ahead and change them later on. And the same with the flooring as well. I wasn't sure what flooring to use, and I wanted to go for this kind of wooden look, but when I look back, I felt like it looked a bit too dark, but I ended up going with it anyway. But I did actually go ahead and use some green carpet, which you can see in the hallway there, and it's the patterned one as well. I didn't puke when I placed it, I promise, but I just sort of felt that it kind of went with the theme of a farmhouse, and it's quite difficult sometimes to build in a style and taste that isn't one that you would personally like. So we had a little bit of an inner fight trying to furnish this house because I was kind of torn between using items which I love with items that really should be in this type of build. So yeah, it was quite interesting to say the least, but I definitely went ahead and used things like different curtains I wouldn't ordinarily use, and yeah, it was quite interesting. But I get asked quite a lot, you know, what do you do when you get kind of stuck in a building rut? What's the best thing to do? And I always say, have a look at different architectural types of houses, you know, like Dutch colonial, Victorian, because if you build something that you're not used to building and you build around a theme, it can sort of give you a little bit of focus, and it makes you, like I say, use items that you wouldn't ordinarily use. So I'm just moving on upstairs at the moment, and this is what I would say would be the master bedroom. And I really like the way this room turned out, and it's probably one of my favourites in the house. Because I love this bed and I love the different colour swatches that it comes with, and obviously it's very farmhouse like as well, but red is my favourite colour, so mixing the red up with it as well, yeah, I really like the way this one turned out, and it felt really cosy as well. I'd say all the bedrooms were sort of, they weren't bad sizes, but they weren't absolutely huge either. This is the second room, which is kind of like a boys' single room. I didn't go over the top with personalising the rooms. I just sort of added all the necessary furniture, if that makes sense. So I hope you're all having a fantastic week. I actually need to do a very special shout out. As some of you may know, when I hit 20,000 subscribers, I actually did an announcement to friends and family that I actually had a YouTube channel, because absolutely nobody knew. There was only a handful of people that knew actually what I was doing, and I've since found out that my two nieces, Caitlin and Hannah, are really big fans of The Sims, and they were absolutely over the moon when they found out that I was indeed a simming YouTuber. So I wanted to do a big shout out to Caitlin and Hannah, especially Caitlin, who's been asking for a shout out, bless her, for the last couple of videos, and I keep forgetting because I'm the worst. So a big shout out to Caitlin and Hannah. So I also wanted to do a shout out for a fellow simmer, and this simmer is someone that I've recently come across who is incredibly talented at building, and she's fairly new to YouTube as well, and that's Kate Emerald. Now, I've actually retweeted some of the things that she's done over on Twitter recently, and I've been watching some of her videos, and she's very, very good, and she's very unique in her building style as well. So what I'm going to do is leave a link to Kate's channel in the description box below, and be sure to check her out. I always think it's really hard at the beginning when you're brand new to YouTube to really kind of reach out and be noticed, if anything, and she definitely deserves that. She's very, very talented, and I promise you won't be disappointed. So if you've got the free time, please check out Kate's link in the description box and show her some love. That would be amazing. But I'm just coming up and finishing off the final room in the house. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me a big thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, it would be amazing to have you on board. So keep an eye out for part 2, which is hopefully going to be the next video that's coming out, and thank you for all your support and comments. I really appreciate it. So take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.